I'm a committed yes person. Tonight, you've made me even more a committed yes person. You've almost convinced me that Scotland will become Valhalla. I would like to know how you're going to maintain that Valhalla, because we are very close to neighbours who will want to come here and share that Valhalla. How do we deal with that?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting broader question, and I mean, in reality, you're talking about Scotland's population, and through an interesting statistic out here, which is something I learned through a lot of things through this campaign. Scotland's population at the moment is just over 8%, 8.5% of the UK's population. When I was a boy growing up, it was about, we talked about it being about 10%. 100 years ago, it was about 12.5%. If you go back to the Act of Union 300 years ago, Scotland's population was 22% of the population of the UK. We've had 300 years of depopulation of Scotland. They reckon that there's 8 million people living in the rest of the UK that trace their ancestry back to Scotland, which is great until you realise that David Cameron's one of them. But there is an issue, and there is an issue that we need to repopulate Scotland. 100 years ago, Scotland's population is the same as it was now. Norway's population has doubled in that period. So we've got, in economic terms, we've got vast underused capacity that Scotland can support a much bigger population. It's got the land resources. We need more infrastructure to be able to access parts of that. But you drive around this country, like I've done as part of this campaign, you see some wonderful places out there. They've got less people in them, a lot less than they did 100 or 200 years ago. So there's huge capacity there, which is all part of the economic growth strategy. But the biggest repopulation of Scotland will be to stop people leaving Scotland. That's the first thing, right? And the second thing will be people that have left Scotland to come back to Scotland. And then people from the other parts of these islands and the rest of Europe who come and live and work here, and that's something I can further afield with things to offer, and that's something we'd encourage. So there's capacity to have a lot more people over time than we do at the moment. So I think that's a positive rather than a negative.
Just to comment the young gentleman at the back, obviously, about the NHS. I mean, people talk, how will we turn it round? How long will it take? How hard will it be? Bevan set the NHS up in 1948. 3 years after the UK reeled out of a Second World War. I think that's pretty darned impressive considering what we ended up with. So, you know, if you roll your sleeves up, there's actually a lot that you can do. And the gentleman talking about our friends maybe wanting to come and be here, I saw a figure quoted that if we hadn't had the clearances, our population would be over 8 million now, with natural population growth. So we've actually quite a lot on the curve to pick up. Now obviously I'm an immigrant from Ireland, although I've lived in Troon longer than I've lived anywhere else in my life. I've mentioned my husband's German, so that's one of the reasons I want us to stay in the EU, or you'll have to go home. but Scots reach out and they go other places. But the problem is that isn't always from choice. You know, Scots are adventurers. They were all over the world during the Empire. They were explorers. They were also inventors and innovators. But what's been happening for a long time is that Scots leave because there isn't a choice. The economy here doesn't support them. And one of the reasons that, if any of you have seen my video, you'll know I mentioned, is my son is 21 in October. And I don't want to be a Skype grandma. I want the opportunity to actually say, I'm cooking the dinner this Sunday. Pop over with the missus. I'll babysit for you. I want to be involved. And that's what I've seen. And that's what everyone in this room has seen, is that decade after decade, generation after generation, we hemorrhage our young people. Over 30,000 of them a year go away and don't come back. Never mind bringing a couple of thousand extra people in from elsewhere. If we could just hang on to our own people, we would be keeping that talent and keeping that innovation and keeping our own families here. And that, I think, would transform Scotland.
just like to conclude the question and answer session there. It's been a fantastic night. The speakers have been outstanding. You've all asked some fantastic questions, and I'd just like to point out that there is sheets on the back if you want to give your name to do as we've said and go out and volunteer, knock doors, leaflet, do whatever you can. There's sheets at the back where you can register, and there's also donation boxes. So if you want more meetings like this to take place, it's as financially viable as can be. Thank you all very much for coming in.